Hello and welcome back to the guest speaker series. With today, I'm joined with Anita Oh. So she will be talking about healing stress and anxiety from the inside out. So I'm very excited about this conversation because I don't think anyone cannot relate to this topic. So I'm really excited to have you here, Anita, with us. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
So I'd love for you to maybe first give a short intro in terms of who you are, what you do. Yeah, so we can kind of know a little bit more about you.
So, hi everyone. My name is Anita. I am a certified nutritional practitioner with over 8 years of experience supporting clients from around the world. I'm passionate and knowledgeable in orthomolecular medicine and herbal medicine. So, I love to inspire, empower, and educate others on their journey to holistic wellness. So I also advocate for greater well-being, graceful longevity through a balanced approach that integrates holistic nutrition, intentional movement, and mindfulness practices. So uh, besides being a life coach, I am also the founder of the Glow Mastermind community, and also the visionary behind the women's entrepreneurship and empowerment groups in Da Nang, Vietnam. So I blend soulful leadership and practical tools to help women in all walks of life heal, rise, lead with clarity and purpose.
I love that. It's such a beautiful intro. Well, thank you for sharing with us. And I obviously just love to dive into this topic because I know we have a lot of things we want to talk about. So I'd love to hear, first of all, like, why is this topic important to you? Like, why are you interested in this? Why were you interested in learning about this? Like, we'd love to hear a little bit more about like the why behind why are we even talking about stress, cortisol?
Well, how would I say this? Like, especially with stress and anxiety, a lot of people deal with that every day. And also, like for me, I also dealt with it a long time ago. It doesn't even have to, how would I say this? It's like it can be through many different things. It could be through, trauma and stress, like really like big things, or it could be like everyday little things too. And it would be great to learn how to manage and deal with it so then it won't affect our body in the long term. Because if you don't deal with stress and anxiety right away, it can manifest into health issues. And if it's not dealt right away, it will eventually lead to chronic issues.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting is oftentimes we can have like a preconception, like a notion of like what stress is. So, for example, like panic attacks, anxiety, these are all obvious signs of stress, but we don't actually, and this is something specifically in women's health. I'd love to hear your perspective too, but for me, working with women, I've seen this a lot of like almost this surprise of like, I didn't think I was that stressed. I didn't think stress was actually impacting this, which it can impact so many different areas, like you mentioned. So I'd love for you to touch on like what are the physical signs of stress and like high cortisol? Like, what could those be? And oftentimes, like I mentioned, it's not always so obvious. Like, the panic attack is obviously obvious, but there's like other ways that it can show up, right? Through our bodies and signs and symptoms. And like you mentioned, there are first like more subtle signs, but then it will
Mhm.
be like big red flag alarm, like I can't not pay attention, right? Have you also sort of noticed that?
Yeah, yeah. Like for me, I've gone through anxiety and stress, and even I mean, having healed that and dealt with that myself, some of the symptoms that I've noticed was puffy face. Like my face was just like a little bit bigger, weight gain as well, because when your body is trying to protect yourself from the stress or perceived stress, it's like, okay, I have to store the fat in the body to protect myself from the danger, whatever it is. I also noticed, like for me, tense shoulder muscles, lower back pain. I also notice, what else? Exhaustion. Like I'm always tired, even if I try to sleep. I don't get quality sleep. I sometimes like have a little bit of insomnia as well. Like I used to I remember back then I used to not be able to fall asleep, even when I was going to school and even when I was going to work, and it just affected everything. Also, what else? Uh, yeah. Also, I noticed for me, there's like muscle weakness in my upper shoulder, like around my upper arms. Like I did notice that back then. I also noticed what else? Stomach pain, cramping, and uh, there's other signs as well. Like I noticed like also food intolerances, like stuff that I wasn't allergic to before. I was like all of a sudden I was allergic. I was not in a good mood all the time, although I try to be. And also there is the cortisol belly where you store like a lot of fat around your organ. So you have like visceral fat and it's like from the upper quadrant of the stomach, it's like it's bulging out, and also on the lower part it also bulges out, so it's like it looks, it looks a little bit like you're bloated as well. So there's also digestive issues. I think I talked about that, but yeah, like even when you try to exercise, which I also did, I just struggled to lose the weight, and it was causing a lot of issues, but yeah, it was because of the especially with the environment and uh what I've been through, it has, caused that. Like for people, I think like some of the signs you won't notice, it's like it's, especially the internal stuff, but also on the external stuff when you notice, so, I'm trying to lose weight, but I'm exercising and it's not doing anything. It's better to kind of like, check it out to see like, am I over exercising? Am I under exercising? Um, or, what are the external factors that are affecting me? Is there trauma, stress, or anything that's happening that's affecting my health, right? And I think one of the things I noticed is like once I deal with those, factors, I was able to heal my body, not have any more of these symptoms, and be able to, lose the weight as well.
Yeah, I know you touched on so many things. I can really, especially with the background of helping women with PCOS, for me, I've really seen like the cortisol phase was actually wild to me when I was sort of looking through old videos of myself when I first started as a nutritionist. And I
Hmm.
was like, what is this like moon phase, like cortisol phase, like you were mentioning? I was just so shocked by it. And it's just interesting to see because sometimes if we don't actually document this, we don't actually see the change. So for me to actually see that like inflammation and cortisol has actually obviously gone down because first of all, my face was just so puffy. I think that's one that is really relevant, but it's oftentimes we don't even realize. And then for me, bloating for sure, fertility, menstrual issues, I saw all the time, hair loss, acne, like it can show up in any way. And it's kind of like for me, stress is always going to be a contributing factor to like any symptom because it's just
Hmm.
impossible to avoid. But I also love
Hmm.
that you added things like, intense exercise because it's very rare for me to meet someone who usually oftentimes we're overdoing it
Yes.
and versus the underdoing it, right? And I think there's been a lot of like conditioning and like lots of just giving the wrong recommendations to women, like for, the
Mhm.
fasting, hit workouts, skipping meals, cutting calories, all of these things can be strategic and like biohacking and all of that. And they can
Mhm.
be a time and a place for them. But for me, I've seen it be way overdone and I overdid it. I actually would do like hit workouts while fasted until like 11 a.m. or noon. And I
Mhm.
literally lost my period. And it was just a shit show. So for me, oftentimes I see like, and I know we're going to get into, I'd love to get into like hidden stressors and stressors that we might
Mhm.
not always think are stressors, like the obvious ones.
Mhm.
But for me, I've definitely seen like healthy habits or healthy strategies
Mhm.
can be overdone or pushed to the limit, specifically with women, because we're more sensitive to stress, right? So that's one
Yes.
that I've definitely seen people were starting to talk about, which is great.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, when you were touching on the topic about fasting, I've done fasting, I've done intermittent fasting, and I would say, with the information that they give out and stuff like that, uh, which one did I try? I tried the 3 day fasting. So it was about, yeah, the 3 day fasting. It worked. It really helped me with losing weight and everything. I did it initially to kind of like spiritual cleansing and just like keeping my mind off like other things. But I did notice that it did affect my period. And when I went to see an acupuncturist, they said it affected my spleen. So it was really weak. So when I stopped doing the intermittent fasting for like the 3 day fast, like one time a week, um, when I was doing that, I noticed I lost my period, I lost weight, but when I went back into eating normally again, I gained all the weight back. So it's not really, I would say it's not really great for women to do something like that. It would be much more sustainable to do something that's more, along the lines for our hormones. Something like 10-14 or 16-8 or something like that. That is more sustainable and it really makes sense, especially with our hormones as well. For men, it's totally fine, especially if they do like 3 day fast, no problem. But for us women, because we have our hormones and stuff, if you do it incorrectly, it could also trigger stress, which is the cortisol hormone as well.
Yeah, I love that you say that because there's definitely a lot more studies done on men for fasting, and fasting is obviously beneficial, but there's different forms of fasting, like you said. And for
Mhm.
me, I definitely agree with like, for me, it's sort of the sweet spot is 12 to 16 hours of fasting, so overnight. And that's kind of the sweet spot for me. If I go over that, then it's not so great. So yeah, it's definitely more doable like that as well. It's not something that's like so difficult and you have to suffer through. And so I really appreciate that you mentioned that as well, because oftentimes I think there's just this conditioning around like the harder it is, the more you suffer, the more it's going to give results. But with women's hormones, it's the complete opposite, right?
Definitely. And also like I don't like for the stance of fasted workouts, I think it's it can also affect the body as well because it's also a little bit of stress. So, especially before a workout, it's good to have a good combination of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates because you want to fuel the body, right? And afterwards, when you finish your workout, it is also recommended to, probably increase the protein intake. Also replenish with carbs and a little bit of fat too, because whatever that you do to exercise, you're actually using that energy already.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah.
So, in terms of like hidden stressors, I'd love to hear what you have to say about like daily habits, environmental factors that could be adding to our stress load. Maybe this is invisible, maybe it's not so obvious. I'd love to hear
Mm.
what you have to say about those in terms of like things we don't always think about, or yeah.
So, how would I say this? So some of the hidden stressors, I would say like what we learned at school was about that bucket of inflammation or the barrel of inflammation. So we call that the allostatic load, right? So initially, it really depends on your genetics. So if your genetics are good, you could tolerate more stress. If your genetics aren't that great, you can only tolerate less stress. So, some of the things that can contribute to stress are like trauma, there is like changes or even abuse. Things like worrying about deadlines, about work, about money issues. Those are also stressors as well. Uh, Non-supportive interpersonal relationships. That is very important because like if you surround yourself with like great people, great. But if you're in surrounding an environment, let's say work environment is toxic, they're talking about other people behind other people back, or or your boss is, always watching you behind your shoulder, that really causes a lot of stress too. Also, stress from the family can be an issue. Social media, especially when you look at images and you're like, this person's living a perfect life, and you're trying to catch up with the Joneses. You're like, okay, I want to be like this, I want to look like this. That also adds stress. Another thing would be pollution. So depending on where you are, like if you live in a place where the air quality isn't that great, that could also be another issue. Negative news. So if you're surrounded or bombarded with like negative news from the media, that can also be an issue. Because I'm also in Vietnam, I don't really see that many Canadian news. It's because they blocked it, but thank God, because I
Thank
want to
goodness
see
you
too.
don't want to see it.
Yeah, it's good, but also at the same time, it's kind of like I have to find some of the information elsewhere. What else? Deadlines, notifications, that can also lead to stress. Um, Especially like with nowadays with the technology, everyone is quite accessible and there is a lack of boundaries. It's like, okay, I'm gonna call, like the boss would be like calling you at like let's say 9 p.m. Whereas like before it's like, okay, you have the certain time that you're available, great, and once you're off work, no need to contact you. But because we have with our technology, you're accessible all the time. And that can also lead to stress. You're like, oh my God, I need to come in for this. Unless you're a doctor, nurse, or anything that requires your attention immediately, that's fine. But if you're working like an office job, there's no need to, stress out about that because it's quite unnecessary. So it's like, I would say there's like perceived threats. And also, for the internal stuff, is just like worrying about things like tasks. Like, am I getting this done? What do I need to do? It's like mental load. Other things such as poor diet, poor gut health. So, if you have a poor diet, it also contributes to poor gut health, and that really can affect your mood significantly. Poor sleep. So, lack of sleep can also cause an issue. What I also touched on before, not enough exercise or overdoing the exercise, lack of connection. So, lack of great relationships as well. If you have good supportive family or good supportive friends, it helps. But when you lack that, it really can cause problems. So it's sometimes better to be a little bit alone. And when you find the right people, find the right supportive people, it'll be amazing. Anger as well. What else? Prescription drugs. Also excessive alcohol use, smoking. Yeah. What else? So once, like the thing about it is like once you overfill this bucket, it will overflow and it will cause a problem leading to health issues, irritability, depression, exhaustion, lack of motivation, overwhelm, and also burnout as well.
I like that you mentioned the stress bucket because like when when you go through the list, which we could add to this list, let's be honest, it's just like, wait, what does not cause stress? Like our entire world is so toxic and stressful. Like, how
Yeah,
do you avoid this? And we could talk about like the toxins and the stressors in this 21st
definitely.
century world. And we just have to also be, aware that like there are so many more stressors, whether it's
Oh,
environmental,
oh
social,
yeah.
physical, etc.
And
But the
also
point,
other, yeah, and
go
also
ahead.
other things as well too is like stuff that you put on your body. People don't think about it, but cosmetics, personal products, even cleaning products as well. Uh, like we don't really think about it, but it also depends, like I say, like on our genetics and how much your body can tolerate. Some of us can, some of us cannot, and sometimes when you need to move from a physical place to another space, then okay, you can actually tolerate more. Your environmental load or your toxic load decreases, but also it depends on your own genetics as well.
Yeah, and obviously we're all about empowerment, so it's all about the epigenetic factors of like, okay, what is in our control? So obviously we can't control certain things, but we can control so many things like our habits, what we choose to consume, our environment, etc. And obviously, these are nuanced, but for the most part, there are many things and choices in our control. And so that's what we really want to look at. What are the choices that we can make? What can we do to reduce the stress load on our bodies? Because it is true, when we pile everything on top of each other, it's going to overflow. And so that's where we want to look at how can we start to reduce that level of stress in the bucket.
Yeah.
So let's maybe start with diet, because that's just what I'm going to start with. When you say like a poor diet, what does that mean for you? Because obviously this could mean many things to different people.
So poor diet can mean like not eating enough, or eating excessively as well, eating foods that are processed, overconsumption of sugars or overconsumption of like anything, right? But everything should be in moderation. So if you're not like, especially with poor diet, like if somebody is eating like processed foods, it could totally affect the body. If you eat whole foods, it really gives you a whole, like actually it provides the proper nutrients into the body, and they're more, yeah, I would say like whole foods would be much better, but like processed foods, too much sugar or anything like artificial sugars or anything else that is like a long labeled list, that can contribute to a poor diet. But also like when somebody overconsumes or underconsumes, also that's a poor diet as well.
Yeah, totally. We can overdo or underdo anything, and oftentimes there are extremes. So I love that you mentioned that too, especially for women. Like it's often, again, I see like not eating enough, and that can be a stressor, as well as blood sugar swings. Like that's going to increase cortisol inflammation. So having those balanced meals, like protein, fat, fiber at every meal, having them regularly, I think is really important, especially for women, because it's so easy to just be like, well, maybe I'll just like, skip on some calories or whatever. But that's actually doing you a huge disservice.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think most of the standard diet in Western society is definitely stressful. Let's just
Yes.
call it that. And at the end of the day, it comes back to, like you said, like the whole food. Is this like it's an apple? It's like one ingredient. And the more ingredients there are, the probably less healthy it is. And at the end of the
Mhm.
day, it's like, are we eating real food? And it's pretty crazy to be live in a time where it's like we actually have to what's the word? We have to actually explain what that is versus like 100 years
Yeah.
ago, it was like food is food, right?
Exactly, exactly. I mean, you know, I live the simple life, and I love, especially when you just like have fresh fruits, vegetables, and whatever. You could just go to the market, buy the thing, cook the thing, and that's it. But because out of convenience, that's why they, make so many processed foods. And especially in North America, if you go to the supermarket, you could see like sections and rows of like all these processed foods. Whereas like if you look at it 20 years ago, or even when we were a child, they didn't have that much.
Yeah, 100%. So it really comes down to like, what were they doing before kind of thing.
Yeah.
100%. And so we talked about how food affects like your hormones, cortisol, inflammation, all of that a little bit. So in terms of like lifestyle habits, what would you say about lifestyle habits that could be supportive, things that people could do to really help reduce that stress? Like a lot of the things we talked about in like the bad list, quote unquote. What are some
Mhm.
lifestyle things that have, helped you, helped your clients, that you think could be really helpful to help reduce that impact of stress and cortisol?
I would say getting enough sleep is important. Sometimes, if that is an issue, it would be better to develop like a good sleep hygiene. So, turn off your phone, put it on airplane mode, put it in another room so then you'll be able to sleep properly. Proper nutrition as well. So, eating whole foods is very important. Um, Meditation is also really good. We also like one of the things that we have quite readily available is, the Insight Timer or any meditation app that really helps. Or even like you could look at some meditation, videos or even some audio, especially on YouTube. So that's quite accessible. If not, if you prefer to have in person, it's great to go to a yoga studio or something like that. Another thing, especially I live in Da Nang, Vietnam, we have a beach, right? So I would say get out there in nature. So I get out there onto the beach, but especially in Canada, doing like forest bathing or grounding, just earthing, anything like that, that really helps, especially with the negative ions on earth. It really helps to, decrease stress in the body. And also hugging a tree. I know it sounds really ridiculous. It helps so much. What else? Sunshine, obviously, because when you go out there, like especially sun gazing or even like be out there and get like a little bit of a tan, your body naturally produces vitamin D, and vitamin D really helps affect the mood as well. So, especially when your body produces that, one of the things that I've learned is to wash your pits and parts. Just leave the other parts of the body, so then your body, integrates the vitamin D into the body. What else? Movement. It is very, very important. Just like move, like walk, run. If you enjoy hiking, do that as well. If you enjoy pickleball, do that as well. So also doing yoga, Pilates. And for me, what I like to do is dancing. It doesn't have to be like salsa bachata or kizumba or any of these dances, or even sensual dancing as well. Like you could do aesthetic dancing where you're just free to move your body however it is. What else? Uh, there is also like another thing is to, decrease the vices such as like smoking, drinking, um, also better time management, because some of the things that can cause stress is when you have lack poor time management, it could stress you out. But once you have everything listed and you're like, okay, I got this done, it really helps as well. I know sometimes it could be a little bit of stress, but you don't have to be perfect. You have to understand that yes, you can get stuff done on your list, but if you're not able to complete 100% of it, you could still have another day unless there is a deadline. Then it would be more of an issue. There's also grounding techniques. So there's the 3-3-3 where you think about, well, you find three things you see, you hear three sounds you hear, and then you move three parts of your body. So that one really helps to ground you into the present, which is very important. And also another one that I learned was alternate nostril breathing that I learned in yoga, and it really helps you to ground yourself as well, mindful of your breathing. And yeah, like when you do that, it really helps you to calm your nervous system down. Yeah.
I love that list. That is super complete. And I think it's really a balance of like how you set up your life, like the
Mhm.
boundaries, the habits, like what you're consuming, your lifestyle, like are you going outside? Are you moving your body? But then there's also like those practices, like you mentioned, like the nostril breathing, um, grounding, other things that can be really helpful throughout the day, throughout the week to really help manage stress, anxiety acutely, but then also have an effect over the long term. So I think it really is a balance of like, what are you doing on a daily day basis? And also what are practices you can turn to, which I think is great that you provided some of those. And it's really comes back down to like it's sort of like different categories around nature, being in your body, and like
Yeah.
movement. Oftentimes it's
Yeah.
really like the most regulating things. And
Mhm.
those are the things that have sort of like become less and less present or
Mhm.
it really made important in our stressful life these days, where it's like we're so disconnected, constantly on electronics. We're not in nature. We're under fluorescent lighting and all of these things. And it's just like,
Yeah.
it's kind of going back to like the roots again and like how were we designed to live? Because yes, technology can be great, but it's also pushing us towards living in a way that is stressful on our bodies,
It
right?
is. It is. Like I think like for me moving here, healing my body and also, doing yoga and also dancing, the most important thing is having the mind-body connection. And I do find that with the current technology and people, especially in, all parts of the world or Western world, they are disconnected from their bodies. And it's like, and then they're trying to deal with stress and they don't understand what's going on. It's like once you are more aware of your body, especially with the mind body connection, you're like, okay, I have to deal with this. I understand this is good for me or this is not good for me. But at this point, it's like, there's so much overwhelm that it's hard to deal with everything all at the same time.
100%. And yeah, it really does take like conscious awareness, commitment, and boundaries at the end of the day, because otherwise, if we
Exactly.
just let life run us, we are going to be completely like a headless chicken running around, overwhelmed.
Hmm.
So, and it does take courage as well to be like, no, I'm not replying messages after this time. I'm turning off, or whatever it is, like also, toxic people and all that kind of thing. So yeah, there's many different factors, but it's just like, what is one next step you can take? And you sort of like add on to that. When I do want to sort of shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about anxiety, because I know that that is a topic that many people want to hear about, and it's something that unfortunately has become an epidemic. I love to hear your thoughts on like what anxiety is, like why does it show up, your experience with it, anything you want to share sort of like about anxiety specifically.
Hmm. Hmm. So anxiety is just, from what I've learned and what we know is like having the invisible tiger. It's like the threat that isn't there, the perceived threat. And you're like, trying to, okay, I must keep myself safe from this. Right. So the first time that I've actually dealt with anxiety was probably when I was in university. And during that time, I didn't know what it was. I was like going through like for me, my physical symptoms was nausea, dizziness, and just like my patterns of breathing were quite erratic. And during that time, I saw a psychologist, and I was trying to get into the root of the problem. And it was because of I would say how would I say like trying to be perfect for my parents. So it's kind of like validation and also, a little bit of a childhood trauma, trying to be perfect for them. Like they have certain expectations. And, for us, like, I mean, for me being Asian, I don't know if like other families are like that. It's like, okay, I must do this because my family wants this. They want me to be this, and I want to be the perfect son, daughter, or whatever and and be the perfect child, and you're always chasing that perpetual goal or that perpetual deadline or whatever that keeps on moving, so that really can stress a person out. And especially for me, and like the second time I also got like anxiety and stress was like when I was in a traumatic relationship as well. Like I didn't even know what was going on, and it was because, of all the other factors combined. Like we had bad eating habits. I was around secondhand smoke all the time. He segregated me from like my friends, so I was just like in my own little bubble, and I was like with all the other things like with work and school going on at the same time. And especially when that person is quite abusive, like physically, emotionally, mentally, and everything, it can really add up. And for me, I remember feeling nausea, headache, and also having stomach pains as well. And it manifested to a point that that I wasn't even able to go outside without having a panic attack. And it would like come on like every, 30 minutes or 50 minutes or so. It was very uncomfortable. I'm like, I cannot live a life like this. It's, ridiculous, right? And also like at one point that I actually decided to leave was when you have that danger in your body and you start shaking, that was the point that I was like, I'm done. I had enough. Like I was like literally shaking, especially like, like the primal thing, especially with animals when they have like a real threat, right? They either like, fight or flight, freeze or whatever. For me, I was literally shaking and I was like, nope, I cannot take this anymore. So I just left, but then I had to also do like a lot of the inner work, like see a therapist as well. So it's really also important if it gets to the point where it is extreme to find professional support because that is really important to, with the inner work with the mind and, understanding what is going on. But you have to understand that therapists, they're not there to hold your hand 100%. You really need to do a lot of the inner work and the other things such as nutrition also help support that as well. Because when your body goes through stress, right, your body takes nutrients from your muscles and from your bones. And that's why, like, most of the time, like, when you're dealing with that, you're always tired and you always need to supplement your body or eat foods that are nutrient dense to replenish those nutrients in our body.
Yeah, I love all of that. And thank you for sharing such a vulnerable part of your story. Really appreciate that. And I definitely hear a number of things around like some of the things we talked about, like how can you reduce your stressors because your body does not feel safe. So we need to, the nutrition piece, how can you take care of yourself? And then obviously there's environmental factors there. It's not usually one thing that is causing anxiety, like it's multifactorial, which is unfortunately why a lot of the time people don't really get the relief, quote unquote, that they're looking for because oftentimes it's like just take a pill or whatever. And obviously, sometimes that is needed, but it's multifactorial, obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
So, the one of the things you also mentioned was like this internal pressure, this sort of chronic stressor that's running the program of our nervous system, our subconscious mind, where we have stories around like, I need to be better, I'm not good enough, la la la. Like we all have these stories that can really, cause a lot of stress. And like you were saying, with the
Yes.
school and everything and your parents. And on at the very core level, it's really our nervous system who does not feel safe, right? So
Yeah.
when that's happened, obviously we're going to be in a state of dysregulation, anxiety, all of those kinds of things. And so I love that you also mentioned the inner work being necessary because it's this rewiring of these neural
Yes.
pathways, the nervous system regulation, that's really important. So what does like, because I know you mentioned like obviously seeking health, like help, whatever that looks like definitely get a
Mm.
support system because I don't think we're meant to do this alone. Like we definitely need
No.
that's healing is also part of there's this reconnection with people and healing community that I think is so important that we sort of lost touch with. But when it comes to the inner healing work, what does
Mhm.
this sort of look like on a day-to-day basis or like outside of those supportive containers, if that makes sense?
I would say like doing inner work helps you to understand like what is the root cause of stress. Like, is this stem from your childhood? Does this stem from work? Or is it stemming from something in your subconscious mind that you really are not aware of, right? So that way you can understand like what is triggering that. But sometimes it takes a bit of time, right? And also like it takes a great deal of like self-reflection and self-awareness. But because with the current society, especially if you're like doing work, like, you're out there doing your work, you're basically, your mind is on cruise control. You don't really have time to actually like be present and sit down and really, think about these things, right? Like recognizing what are your thought patterns. Like if you're like doing negative self-talk to yourself or saying like, oh, especially with like trying to be perfect, trying to appease the parents, appease your boss, appease your partner, that can also add to a lot of stress too. But like when you understand, okay, what my parents want and what I want are two different things. What my partner wants or what I want are also can be two different things, but communication is key. Like in all aspects, communication is key. Also, like I say, like a supportive community is important. So if you have these people in your life that are very toxic, it can also affect your health. If they're always comparing each other, if they're insecure, it also affects yourself and the way that you think. And like they say, the five people that you surround yourself with makes who you are. So if they are toxic, just remove yourself and find a new group. Easier said than done, but it is quite necessary. And another thing that's really important is doing the shadow work. But like that is totally really, really deep, but it really helps you to understand like your, you know, con, I would say your feelings and the roots of your feelings and your behavior. And you also explore, integrate parts of yourself that you reject and hide. There are things that, like, some of us are really ashamed, but this is what makes you unique. Who the fuck cares? The thing about it is, like, once you get to that point, you're like, I give zero fucks. Because once you integrate these shadow sides of yourself, you become whole and you become authentic. And that really helps to, decrease your stress and anxiety, just being yourself and being happy with yourself. That's really important. But I think, like, everyone is like, I want to be like this. I want to be like that. I want to be what my parents want me to be. I want what my boss wants me to be. I want to look perfect in front of the world. No, just be yourself. That's really important. What else is also important? Just being present, being mindful, like even like doing things, just being sensual, like how would I say it? Like smelling the roses or savoring each bite of food, that really helps to calm you down as well. Like even simple moments like that, like that really brings you there. But another thing that I also find that helps me is not only like deep breathing exercises, but one of the things that I've done is writing helps me a lot. People can find like um, I would say like talking to others would be great, but for me, doing a gratitude journal really helped me a lot. Write three things in the morning that you're grateful for, and at night, what are the three things that you're grateful for during the day? And I did that continuously for probably almost 2 years, and it helped me rewire my brain, like think about the positive side of things. And yeah, I don't do it that consistently, but I am very mindful of the things that I've gone through, and especially if I go through a stressful situation or even a painful situation, I ask myself, okay, what is this, and what lessons am I learning here? And I just be grateful for it, right? And also, there's like other stuff as well, such as the Ho'oponopono prayer, which is like thank thanking them, forgiving them, and just moving on and just continuing on. But that's like an entirely different thing.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's really multidimensional and there's different practices and tools to help you get back into your body because at the end of the day, anxiety is really just we're in our head, we're disconnected. So those practices can be so huge on a daily basis. Like, how can we practice more presence, whether that's like body touch, grounding, the senses thing you mentioned as well. I love that. And the whole thing around like being someone who you're really not and like the people pleasing perfectionism, all of this
Yes.
conditioning that we're just shedding now as this generation that's getting into the healing work of like, this isn't who I want to be actually is just a huge stressor. But it also made me think about Jim Carrey's, and I'll just wrap up after this. But
Mhm.
Jim Carrey's quote, it's around depression, but I think it still pertains to this topic where he says, depression is your body saying, I don't want to be this character anymore. I don't want to hold up this avatar that you've created in the world. It's too much for me. And so I feel like it's definitely intertwines with the anxiety piece too of like, this is not who I am. Like it's actually exhausting trying to like live up to this image of, these conditions and expectations. And I think a lot of us are like realizing that and starting to do this work,
Yeah.
which is great. But yeah, I think there's a combination of like individual solo stuff you can do on a day-to-day basis, but then obviously having someone who can guide you through this is just so powerful. And I think it's really
Definitely.
important to, get that support, whatever that looks like. So
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I have a women's empowerment group. It's for women, like I say, in all walks of life. And even if they deal with any of these other issues, they do have a supportive community where, other women are going through the same thing and they could help each other and they could support each other, not only with each other, but also I can help them as well. So that's why I created something like this in Da Nang and also launching internationally as well too.
Amazing. Yeah, I want to ask you, how can we find you? What sort of support do you offer? So right now it's only in person, is that right?
Right now it's sorry. Right now it's in person and I've been doing it for 2 years. And recently I launched the online community. So it's Glow Mastermind Community. So it basically is the same thing. What we do is we're going to do a little bit of a meditation exercise. Then we get into the root of the thing, whatever topic we talk about. So we do touch on some entrepreneurial stuff and we also touch on empowerment stuff as well. So that really helps to really go deeper to understand who you are, and it's kind of like a little bit of life coaching, but it's more like a mastermind community where everyone helps one another, and also I help them as well. And then when we end the session with another meditation session, and yeah, and then we chat. And after that, if they want to continue on, forming friendships, they could do that as well. And I've seen that, especially with the, in-person community where, women form stronger friendships, stronger bonds, and they make friends from around the world. And I love that. And it's very different from an entrepreneurial, networking event or anything where it's like, hi, I'm this person from this company. Who are you? That kind of thing. This really gets to understand like who you are, what you are, and forming like authentic friendships, relationships, networks as well. Because when you have that supportive community, you're able to also help yourself like lower the stress, lower the anxiety as well. Because when you know that somebody, is there to hear you, see you, and understand you, it really helps so much.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to the power of healing and community. It's just something that's so different from one-on-one, and one-on-one is so powerful, but there is definitely a community aspect that is definitely healing. So I love that you have that, and I love that you have an online option as well. So that is amazing. I will put all of the links in the show notes, and the links so that people can find you and find out more. And yeah, I really appreciate this conversation. I think this was so powerful and transformative, and I really thank you for your time today and for sharing all of this with us.
Thank you so much.